Hey everyone, thanks for your support in 2024. We have a lot of cool stuff coming in 2025, and here are some of the things you can look forward to as we move into next year. In the lead up to The Mandalorian and Grogu in 2026, we'll be starting a full series rewatch of both The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett on exploring hyperspace lanes beginning in October. You can also expect a rewatch of Andor, and we will have reviews of every episode of Andor and the rest of the Skeleton Crew as those come out. Josie will be returning as we continue to rank every Star Wars thing released ever. Reviews of every episode of every Marvel Disney Plus show, including Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider Man, The Eyes of Wakanda, Wonder Man, Ironheart, Daredevil Born Again, and Marvel Zombies, the day after each episode releases, will be available on Beware of Spoilers. We'll be having special event podcasts on 30-minute reviews for the Academy Awards, our 2024 year in review in early January, ranking all of Phase 5 of the MCU after Fantastic Four First Steps comes out, and our 10th anniversary special. Once we complete our rankings of all the Pokemon games on the backlog files, we'll be moving on to Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy. Over on the YouTube channel, you can join in for playthroughs of Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, Pokemon White, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, Kingdom Hearts Recoded, Mario Golf Toadstool Tour, Sonic Adventure 2, LEGO Racers 2, LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga, and SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. Want to keep on top of all the new things we have coming? Subscribe at mwpnews.com, subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/@mwpnews, or subscribe to Beware of Spoilers, 30-minute reviews, exploring hyperspace lanes, and the backlog files on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Again, thank you for your support. Good evening and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam on this a very chilly Friday evening. So, very quickly, let's just address the noise factor that you may experience during this podcast. I am recording this from near the Staples. I went to pick up a book that I ordered on Amazon a month and a half ago. Finally came, so here I am with that. And I was gonna do this when I got home, but the road is closed because there was a car accident, which means you may hear sirens. And I would like to get this done so that way I can, you know, go to bed and I keep my stuff in my car. So here we are. So you may hear sirens. Sirens are most likely on my end, but that I can't speak to whatever's going on where you are. Um, Now we're gonna talk about the Academy Award nominations, and we're gonna do this a little bit differently this year than we have in the past. Namely, because there's a lot of the movies that I have not seen yet, for a number of reasons. Number one, I had car trouble for a good amount of the month of October into November, where I just didn't have a car, so I wasn't able to go to the movies, which did harm my ability to go and see these things. Number two, that reawakened for a good amount in the month of January, where again didn't have a car because I was having trouble with the car that I ended up buying. All of that said, that is, those are just excuses as to why I couldn't go to the movies and see some of these movies. The other thing that kind of hampered my ability was outside of my, well, I mean, this is all outside of my control to an extent, but way outside of my control was the fact that because of the number of major releases that came out in November and December in terms of big budget movies from major franchises, there were a lot of movies that did not get wide play because of that. So like I'm recording this Friday night. I believe on Saturday I'm going to see The Brutalist. And then, that way we can talk about that over on Beware of Spoilers. I can't guarantee I'm going to see The Brutalist because I do have other things going on. I may have to move that. But that will definitely be a weekend movie. Um, Regardless, there's another ambulance showing up. I heard the accident as I was walking into Staples, because that's where I had the Amazon lockbox I had it shipped to is in the Staples on my way home from work. But regardless, the point is, rather than talking about all the nominees in each category, we are going to talk about the ones I think are going to win in each category. Not that, not the ones that I think, there may be some talk of some of the snubs and some of the other things, but this is going to be mostly about who I think wins in each category. And this is based on how I think the politics of the race are going to play out mostly. Very quickly, I have not seen any of the live action animated or documentary shorts that were nominated, so we're going to reserve that until February. Allegedly, February 14th, Shorts TV is doing their nominees. So you'll be able to see, what's it called? You'll be able to see, the shorts that are going to be up for that. Um, but we won't be seeing that until February 14th, so we can't really weigh in on those. Um, so let's just go through the list. Best original song. I think the new Elton John song is not going to win. I think that El Mal and Mi Camino are going to split the vote for Amelia Perez in that category. This is going to be where Sing Sing gets its flowers, with Like a Bird. Especially considering I think I haven't seen it yet, um, because it's a movie that A24 has made incredibly difficult to see, and I'm not entirely sure why. Nor am I entirely sure why it's not on what's it called yet? Why it's not on Max yet? But regardless, the movie has not come out fully yet. Although it allegedly came out last July, but again, not to the theater I was at. I go to all the time, so who knows? So I think this is gonna be its opportunity there. Um, like a Bird is my pick for that from Sing Sing. Best original score. Um, I'm not comfortable giving, and we're gonna. This is one of those things that's gonna be, after this is going to be contradicted, but I'm not comfortable saying Wicked in this category because a lot of this comes from the Broadway show. So it's just using the music that was already created for the Broadway show and then going evocative of that with the score. I feel like this should have been a Dune scenario, a Dune Part 2 scenario, where Dune wasn't qualified because of how much music came from that. But whatever. I mean, Wicked got nominated. I think it's going to go to Conclave, only because that's the one I think is gonna do that there. But where was Challengers in this? Like, did people forget Challengers came out? Did MGM just not push Challengers here? Um, because Challengers was fantastic and it had a fantastic score. Trent Reznor knocked it out of the park with that. And even if you want to say that, like, okay, Dune Part Two wasn't viable because of how much of the score pulled from Dune Part One, I still think either of those movies would have been a clear winner in that. Next up, we have Best Sound, which I really hate that it's one category instead of two, where it was sound editing and sound mixing, which every year I point this out. Those are two very different skill sets, so to award both of them in one category is dismissive of below the line people who do a lot of work to make the sound work in these movies. That said, I think the Wild Robot is going to be the winner here. I think the Wild Robot does a fantastic job of playing with not just natural sounds, but also dialogue and doing all of that and mixing it all together in an interesting way. And also, I don't think it's going to win Best Animated Feature, so this will be the place where I think the voting body could give it some notice. Um, We'll do best costume, best makeup, and hairstyling because my logic behind both of these picks is kind of the same. I think both of these are going to go to Wicked. And again, if you've listened to this show before, you know how I feel about this. I don't like picking something where they're just recreating costumes that we've already seen in real life. I didn't like Elvis being nominated. I'm not a huge fan of Complete Unknown being nominated. Things like that don't feel, you know, fair because it's like, okay, well, you're just recreating the style of some time. So it's like even Gladiator 2, I'm like, okay, you're just recreating that. We've seen that before. Wicked is something unique. And this is what I mean when I said I was going to contradict myself almost immediately with the best original score. I feel like, yes, Wicked is going to be pulling a lot from, what's it called? It's going to be pulling a lot from the other one. It's going to be pulling a lot from the Broadway show. But at the same time, they're building out other things. And for a theatrical experience, they do a lot more. Um, Best editing, I think this is an easy one. I think this is going to be Amelia Perez. That movie is beautifully edited. Best production design. This is a tough one. I feel like Conclave shouldn't have been nominated because I don't know how much production design there actually was, considering it's like, and who wins the production design for this? Like the Catholic Church over the course of the last 2 millennia, like because it's all just actual churches and like recreated like garb from like what they wear. Like I feel like that's something that we should address with this, but it feels like cheating that Conclave is nominated there because these are already things that have that have already existed. Um, so that said, I think this is going to go to Dune Part Two. Of the things that have been showcased, I think this one has the most to build out what that world looks like. And I think the other thing that's interesting about Dune Part Two and the production design front is we're dealing with and I think I bring this up later on too with cinematography. Um, I'll bring this up in other categories too. The world of Arrakis has the potential to be pretty boring because at the end of the day, it's a desert planet, but everything about it is beautifully done. Um, I think Doom Part 2 is going to win this. Best visual effects. This is going to be my go out on a limb take, where this happens every year. There was Nimona last year where I'm like, look, it's not going to win, but it should win. The one for here is going to be Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Um, where it's like, I don't think Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is going to win. I think this is going to go to Dune Part 2, realistically. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes should win, though, to have gotten this far. Was Dune Part 2 nominated? I know Alien Romulus was. But this should. I mean, look, Alien Romulus shouldn't be nominated, considering they had to redo the effects on something after the movie came out. It'd be like nominating Thor Love and Thunder, and it's like, yeah, they redid some of the effects after. It's like, well, if the effects were so off that you had to redo it in post for release, at another when the movie comes out on home media, you probably shouldn't be getting that for the theatrical run of this movie. I'm sorry, but at the same time, I think Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes does. Although I do want to point out, two of the five movies that were nominated, the leads were talking monkeys. So that's kind of cool. Also, again, another one that I think is kind of snubbed here. Um, and I'll leave this open to the floor for anyone out there who wants to debate this. I feel like Mufasa should probably be in this conversation because I think I said the same thing in 2019 with The Lion King, where it's like this is a photorealistic animated movie. If we're counting it as quote unquote live action, because a lot of people just colloquially call it a live action remake of The Lion King, even though it's not really. If that's the case, those movies get shut out on both fronts because if it's a photorealistic animation, people don't consider it that. It doesn't get nominated for best animated feature, and then if it doesn't get nominated for for best visual effects, then where does it fall? Now I'm not saying Mufasa is good or deserved either. If you were going to make a case for one of the categories, I think it probably deserves a nomination more than Better Man for best visual effects, if for no other reason than that sequence that I talked about in the review, where you have that opening with him with the song where they're talking about what ends up being Pride Rock. Um, that would have been an interesting thing. Best cinematography, we talked about it before. Dune Part Two, beautifully shot movie. Best adapted screenplay. Um, this is a tough category. Um, I will say also I think that when we talk, let's talk about what wasn't nominated here. This is where Dune Part 2 should have been nominated because they did so much with that compared to the novel. I think that it deserves for how it was rewritten. We're talking about adapting, and when we talk about adapted screenplay, we're talking about taking something from one medium and putting it to another with modern context. The original book was written in 1965, so things like what happened with Cheney and her character wouldn't fly in a modern adaptation of that movie. And the same goes for it. Like you're taking a book that has massive time jumps in it and introduces characters and all of that. The way they deal with Aaliyah, the way they deal with Paul and Cheney's relationship, and Cheney being given more autonomy, should have earned it some recognition here. I think that it doesn't. Um, and then what I do think will win is Amelia Perez because I think that they did a brilliant job of adapting that story and that subject matter into a musical. I think it deserves that recognition. Best original screenplay. This is where Challengers should have been nominated, and Challengers was not. And I think that is like those are the two movies that I think are the most snubbed here. Were Dune Part Two and Challengers. Um, at the end of the day, though, This was what's it called? This was one where Challenger should have been nominated. It was not. I think Honora is going to be a close second, but this is going to go to the Substance. This is going to be where the Substance gets a lot of its awards. Best Supporting Actor. I'm going to just say it right now. I think Kieran Culkin's a lock for a Real Pain. I think this is the closest thing of anything to a certainty in this award cycle. He's going to win that award. Best Supporting Actress. You remember that scene in The Office in the trivia episode? I've been watching the Superfan episodes of season 8. There's in the episode where they go to Oscars trivia night to try and win the money. Um, Andy breaks up everyone and he's like, "All right, we have the A team, the B team, and the people who are just for fun. You guys know yourselves best. Put yourselves where you belong." And then like everyone goes off into their groups where they feel they belong, and then Kevin shows up in the A team, and Andy's like, "Good self awareness, everybody," except and he kind of looks at him until he's like, "Oh, I'm in the wrong place." Like that's how I feel seeing Ariana Grande nominated in this category. And again, I really liked Wicked. I loved Wicked. It was one of my favorite movies of last year. That said, Ariana Grande being nominated here feels like Michael Keaton being nominated for Birdman, which he should have won that, but I feel like there's a little bit more emotional depth to the movie in what he's doing there than her playing Glinda. If you told me this is what Ariana Grande was in real life, I would not be shocked. I don't think she deserves that. I think Zoe Saldana is going to win this. Saldana is going to win this. She's got the little thing over the end, so that's yeah. Um, she's going to win this category, which is going to give her an Oscar win on top of a role in 3 of the top 5 highest grossing movies of all time. Best leading actor is going to go to Timothy Chalamet. I feel like that's also something that I'm not saying is a lock, but I feel like I'm very confident in that. Um, Not just because of his performance in The Complete Unknown, but also because of his performance in Dune Part 2. And let me just put it this way. I'm not saying that, like, him playing Paul Atreides was transformative or anything like that. I'm saying that Warner Brothers is going to be doing a massive awards push for Dune Part 2 because I believe it's their biggest chance to get Oscars this year. It is for them what Barbie was last year. They're going to be doing a huge for your consideration push where it's like they're going to be getting Dune in front of as many people as possible. At the same time, Searchlight is going to be doing the same thing for A Complete Unknown. They're going to be trying to get those wins out for Chalamet, and it's going to put him, like, yes, he wasn't nominated for playing Paul, but it would be incorrect to say that him playing Paul had nothing to do with a win if he does win. So I will say he's going to win Best Actor because of that. Next up, Best Actress. Carla Sofia Gaston made history as the first transgender person to be nominated in a major acting category. She will make history on March 2nd as the first transgender person to win the award. I do believe there is an outside chance that, what's it called? There's an outside chance that, what's her name? Demi Moore could come in and beat it. I have been wrong betting against the narrative before. I did guess that Stephanie Sue would win, and I think she should have won. But I bet against, what's it called? I bet against the narrative of Jamie Lee Curtis winning. There is a possibility that Debbie Moore wins based on that. I think that Carla Sofia Gaston had the best performance, though, of these nominees. Best Director. Denis Villeneuve has now been snubbed twice for Dune movies that were nominated for Best Picture. Both Dune and Dune Part 2 were nominated for Best Picture, and he was not nominated for Best Director. And I also recall no actor was nominated for Dune Part 1, or actress was nominated for Dune Part 1, and the same thing happened here again. How the fuck do you nominate a movie for Best Picture and not nominate the director for Best Director and none of the actors for Best Actor or Actress? How does that happen? I don't understand that. But either way, whatever, he wasn't nominated. I haven't seen Queer, but I have seen Challengers. I think Luca Guadagnino should have been nominated. I don't know if the new AI issues with The Brutalist will harm its chances here. Um, but I think it's going to be just enough to sink Brady Corbett. So Sean Baker is my pick for Honora. Best documentary feature. I have not seen any of them, but I'm going to go on a limb and say The Porcelain War is going to do exceptionally. Is going to do well. It did very well on the festival circuit. It did well at South by Southwest, at Sundance, at Hamptons, at Tribeca, New York, Seattle. I think it was at New Hampshire. I think it was at Annapolis. I think it was at, like any festival I looked at, you would see the Porcelain War there. I think that's going to parlay it into a win here. Best International Feature. Everyone, say it with me. When a movie is nominated for Best Picture and Best International Feature, it will always win Best International Feature. Congratulations to Amelia Perez. Best Animated Feature. I think that Disney, Netflix, and Universal are going to go in to try and get their nominees Inside Out, 2, The Wild Robot, and Netflix. I'm sorry, and wow, and Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul. All three of which are fantastic movies. I enjoyed all three of them. I have not seen Flow. The fact that Flow won the Golden Globes means it has an outsized chance. If not that, it's going to be The Wild Robot. And Best Picture, I liked Amelia Perez. I really liked Amelia Perez. Amelia Perez, I think is going to do very well. It did very well in the nominations. I do not think it's going to win Best Picture. That said, if enough happens during the voting period politically where this movie can get that, that kind of like the fuck Trump vote going for it, there's an outsized chance it could win. I've heard good things about The Brutalist, and hopefully I'll be seeing it tomorrow. That said, I think The Brutalist is going to be able to carry, even with this AI controversy. Um, like, I'm going to be interested to see what ends up winning. I think Dune Part 2 doesn't really have a chance. I don't have the full list of nominees in front of me. I think, if anything, he's going to win over The Brutalist, it's going to be Amelia Perez. And it's just, the question is, does the AI controversy sink The Brutalist? Um, and can Amelia Perez get itself, going into a win? Um, and we'll see. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Do you think I'm an asshole? Probably all the three. You can comment on what we've talked about here on on Spotify. You can also follow us on Spotify and tell your friends and rate us 5 stars. That'll be very helpful. But until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.